Hey everyone, welcome to Two Car Pros. My name is Ryan, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to change the driver's side CV axle for a 2018 Mercedes-Benz GLA 250. So the CV axle is what connects the transmission to the hub assembly because it's an all-wheel drive car. So this is on the front end, and these go out all the time, and that kind of feels like when you're going around a corner and you hear something kind of going clunk, 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 or it might even like feel like it's chugging slightly. My first instinct is to go for the CV axle, and I'm usually right. It's usually the driver's side like it was on this car. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to film what that looks like and sounds like because it was so minor on this car. It just wasn't coming up on the camera anyway, but after I changed it, the thing drives perfect now, so I know that was the problem. And this is actually really easy. Typically working on Mercedes-Benz cars, they are a little more difficult and they charge an arm and a leg and this and that, but not on this time. This is actually a pretty easy CV axle, so let's go ahead and get into it. So I've already removed the wheel, pretty easy to do, and the first thing we're going to do is remove this dust cap, and I'm going to do that using a large prying implement. You could probably get away with a smaller one, but you know, I like using this big one because when you need something moved, it's really helpful to have a lot of leverage. You just get it behind that clip and pull out towards you. You can even rotate it over, make it a little easier to do one side to the other. There we go, starting to move. There we go, that's how you get that out. So in order to prevent this whole assembly from turning, what you do is just take a sturdy screwdriver, stick it in one of the vents here, and then just kind of rest it against the caliper. Then we can take our E24 Torx with our socket, and then just apply some pressure, and it should come off for you. That wasn't too bad. It's on pretty good though, to be honest. Then we can take this bolt and toss it into the trash. I'm pretty sure these are torque-dealed and not reusable. The next thing I'm going to do is remove the brake line out of this cute little holder. So that will give us plenty of articulation later. We won't have to worry about, stressing the brake line out. See how nice and loosey-goosey this is? That's really nice. Alrighty, so let's remove these two nut and bolt combos right here. They are 21mm for the bolt and 21mm for the nut. And I'm going to use my large breaker bar because these can be a stinker. And these are no exception. Alrighty, broken that one loose. Let's go for the gold and try to get this one too. Ow. There we go. Once I've broken them loose, I'm just going to use my impact driver. There we go. Really handy to have this. There we go. So the next thing we're going to do is on this little plastic piece right here, you can kind of see this little clip. A little difficult to see on camera, I do apologize, but there's one on both sides that we just kind of need to defeat and pop out like this, just like that. There's another one on the other side. And we're doing this so we can get this plastic piece just up and out of our way. There we go. Now those bolts won't come out of there without removing some weight off of the whole assembly. So I have my screw jack, typically use these on a lift. You could very easily use a floor jack to accomplish the same goal. And honestly, you probably need about this much off of there. I'm moving the bolt and you'll be home free. So now we can remove that top bolt fairly easily and get it out of there. Now I can worry about this bottom one, and it is being a little more difficult, but we'll get it. There we go. Just screw it out like this. That works. Oh, there we go. Kind of push it on there. Ah, not bad at all. And then we can very carefully remove our jack, or my screw jack, or you guys' floor jacks. Get it out of there. Now the whole assembly can technically fall off right now, so we're going to be very careful with it. Don't worry, it won't fall off the car though, because the lower control arm is still attached. So what I've done next is I've just put a little red cap in there, a little plug, so that way it stops leaking grease everywhere and it's a better picture for y'all. and we can just kind of push that back out of the hub. At the same time, we're moving the entire assembly outboard. So now you can see the CV axles coming into the hub assembly, and we can just kind of maneuver that like this until it falls off. Look at that. So honestly, I kind of thought it would flop the other way, but it flopped this way. And look, the brake line isn't being stressed or anything. This is being held on by the lower control arm. This is completely fine, and our CV axle can be maneuvered out of there. Sometimes you can just kind of pull them and they'll come out, and other times you need a lot of leverage. So let's find out which one this is. But before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and put a drain pan right about here. So that way, if any ATF comes out of the transmission or differential, whatever you want to call that. So with my implement of leverage, I'm gonna kind of reach up there and try to get this thing loose. There we go. That wasn't too bad at all. And then, whew, it's coming. Give it a minute. There we go. Nice. And no fluid came out. Excellent. So I thought it's important to show you where I put my prying implement. Right through here. Right there, kind of up this way, and then I had it hooked this way, and then I had it hooked this, no. Then I had it hooked this way, and I pried it forward, or to the side of the vehicle, that way, and was able to pull it out. Not too bad at all, honestly. So here is our old unit that is making all kinds of chompy, awful noises while we drive. Junk. And then we have our new unit. This is made by GSP and is about $140, something like that. If you want to use the OEM CV axle, feel free to do so. But I'll warn you, this part from Mercedes is over $900. So you can see why there's an aftermarket for this. And this is a pretty good brand. So before we attempt to put this CV axle in, let's make sure it's the same as this one. Make sure the splines are the same on both sides. Make sure the length is about the same. And you might be saying, well, this one's a little bit longer. It is a little bit longer, but look, this one can stretch to be that long. It's just that this one is all worn out. This one, nice and stiff and plenty of life left in it. So let's install this. So before we install the CV axle, let's go ahead and talk about something. You see this little clip? This little clip can really make your life difficult. See how it doesn't want to stay centered? It just kind of want to flops about. That's no good. So what we do is get some grease. You can use any grease you like, really. I like this stuff that I have for building engines. And what that's going to do is not only be able to be dissolved in oil, is I'm going to make it so that way the spline slide on easier, which is a plus, but a added bonus is that I can just set the little clip here so it's nice and concentric. It isn't like too far off one side like that or something. I just want it kind of hovering so that way it's nice and equidistant on both sides. You'll be able to feel it, and that is going to be able to be slipped into the transmission a lot easier than if you just try to go at it having the clip flop about. And again, before we put our CV axle in, I'm going to grab that same grease. You can even use WD-40 or engine oil or something like that. And I'm going to just apply it to this rubber boot, dust seal, whatever you want to call it. Just because when it starts moving or starts up, we don't want it to start up dry. So make sure this rubber piece here has plenty of lubricant on it. So making sure that our clip is nice and concentric on our splines, we can carefully maneuver our new CV axle in until it's in its home like that. And you can spin it like this to make sure the splines are home. And I know they're home because I have some engagement on the transmission. And then, so we're going to take the CV axle, move the coilover out of the way, and we're just going to kind of use it as a little hammer. So just keep using the CV axle as its own installed tool until it is fully seated, and you'll be able to see that back on the transmission. I'll show you what that looks like. So right here is the seal where it's butted up against the transmission. When it looks like that, it's basically home free. You'll also notice a sound change when you are pounding on the CV axle, and give a listen to what that sounds like. So when you're pounding away on this and you notice it changed from the sound you heard originally to this, I mean, stop, it's done. You'll kind of feel it bottom out and it'll go, ooh, and then it won't go any further. You're all done, you're good to go. Time to move on. So next thing we're going to do is grab some more grease, and I'm just going to lubricate these splines just a little bit. It's going to make our life a little bit easier in the long run. There we go. And then remember, we took this brake line, we put it behind where it connects to the coilover. So we're going to put that back in front like this, but don't let the whole assembly pull on the brake line here. That could be bad. Angle the CV axle towards the hub, and I'm sorry my hands are going to be in the way, but they kind of have to be in order to put it back together. So we can kind of just angle that in like this. At the same time, we are feeding the CV axle into the hub. Might need to rotate the hub a little bit, have spline engagement. So what we can do is kind of maneuver and pivot the whole hub assembly here until one of the holes line up for the bolts. Ah, there we go. And that's going to hold it for us, and it should be lined up. There we go. It should be lined up so the CV axle can kind of do this. And we can kind of maneuver the whole assembly upward and in so the other bolt goes in. It's funny, it's easier to put them in than to take them out. It's usually the other way around. And we can go ahead and replace our nuts. So now we can take our 21mm wrench and impact gun. Just snug these down. That's pretty good. And then I'm going to tighten it down again with our breaker bar. I just want these. That's pretty darn good. Nice and snug. I don't have a torque spec on these guys, unfortunately, but they're on pretty darn tight. I think that's just fine. So now we're at this point. You can just kind of see that the CV axle wants to just slide in and out nice and easy. I'm moving it from the backside. So we don't have any kind of bind or anything. That's really good. And what we're going to want to do is take our new bolt. This is our new one that came with our CV axle. And we are just going to thread it down until it starts getting snug. It's going to kind of pull that. There we go. It's going to stop turning by hand, and we're just going to leave it there for right that second because there is a little bit of a trick on the tightening procedure. So the next thing we can do is grab our E24 inverted Torx and put it on there. And I've already set my torque wrench for 120 Newton meters. And again, you run into this problem where the whole assembly spins. So we're going to grab our handy dandy screwdriver and just place it in one of the vanes for the brake caliper like that, and it'll kind of rest against the caliper itself. Don't worry, it's not going to hurt anything. So that's what that looks like right there. It's just kind of shoved up in there, nice and deep, so it has plenty of bite. And then what we're going to do is tighten this to 120 Newton meters. There we go. And then, I know this is kind of goofy, we're going to loosen it. So we're going to need to change our screwdriver to the side. And then we loosen it, and then put our screwdriver back where we had it before. There we go. And then set our torque wrench to 150 Newton meters. And just pull that. There we go. And then we're still not done, believe it or not. And then we need our angling degree feature and set that to 45 degrees. And this should be our final torque figure. There we go. Nice. Then we just need to grab this little plastic piece, and that can go back into where we want it to go. There we go. And then just insert the little clippies. There we are. And then we can put our brake line back into its home, and then make sure that safety clip is nice and installed. So here's our dust cap. I've actually kept it in the freezer so it's nice and cold. Hopefully it's shrunk a little bit. And we can just kind of tap that on. So I'm just going to give it a couple of taps with my mallet. All the way around. Alternatively, you can grab a standard screwdriver like this and just kind of go around the brim of it. We want that sitting down nice and flush. So make sure it is nice and installed
just like that. And you don't really want to hit here with the hammer, especially not a nice rubber one like this. If it's like a ball peen hammer, you can actually dent this cap, and it might not even fit the rims register, or to look really shoddy, and we don't want that. We want it to look just like this.
So that's how to change your CV axle for Mercedes-Benz GLA 250 from 2018. It is very easy. It's very straightforward. Mercedes dealers probably going to charge you, geez, they want $960 just for the CV axle. They're probably going to charge you at least $400 for the work. So something like $1,500 for that, really, really not worth that much money. I think I paid $140 for that CV axle, and of course the link is located down below in the description. Thank you so very much for watching. If you found this video helpful or interesting at all, please consider leaving a like or even subscribing. It really helps my channel out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.